Day 3 of the Lemaricus Davidson capital murder trial, we had somewhat of a Fulton High School class reunion. Davidson's ex-flame, Daphne Sutton, along with some of her other fellow Fulton alumni testified today. They're all friends. A few of them work together at this, or did work together at the Sonic over on Broadway. And they also shared a common affection for Oxycontin.
And how many were you taking a day?
It wasn't every day. It was, I didn't have a job at the time, so it was just whenever I could, or Brandy had money.
Okay, and how did they make you feel?
I don't know, it's kind of hard to answer.
Well, I don't know, so if you can help me, did they make you, your
Like
perception
any
of
drug,
reality
yeah,
change?
I mean, they don't make you, it's not like out of mind, like if you're drinking, you know, you're still in the right frame of mind.
So it's a pain pill, so it suppresses your senses, right?
Yes, to some extent, but
Okay.
when you get so far into it, your tolerance builds up to it, and a little bit doesn't do as much as it did when you first started. So at that time, a little bit, or whatever it wasn't to get high anymore, it was just maintaining.
Daphne Sutton testified that her boyfriend, Lemaricus Davidson, gave her clothing that authorities say belonged to torture slaying victim Channon Christian. She also put on his feet shoes that authorities say belonged to Shannon's boyfriend, Christopher Newsom, who was also slain in the January 2007 case. The defense, however, pointed out through Daphne that Davidson wears a size 12 shoe. Chris wore a 9.5, so it would be a tight fit. So they may be working on a if the shoe doesn't fit, you must acquit type defense. We also heard a lot of testimony from cellular phone providers, representatives from US Cellular and Sprint. On the surface, that would seem to be a tad boring, frankly, but it's actually very significant. One of the things that the prosecutors did with these cell phone providers' testimony and records was to verify much of what Daphne Sutton and her friends, including Kassie Suttles, testified in terms of a timeline, a series of events. Basically, they say that Davidson began calling Daphne's friends sometime early Sunday morning, and this would have been after the couple went missing. That they finally connected sometime Sunday afternoon. That later that evening he asked her to come over and pick up these clothes. He didn't want her in the kitchen, didn't want her in the bathroom. It was Sutton said she was in the house for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And then later that night, he calls Daphne to actually come get him. And the cell phone records tended to back up that testimony, and Suttles also backed up that testimony. So that was sort of shoring up for the prosecution. But another set of cell phone records the defense used to raise questions about whether Christian was being held against her will. According to US Cellular, from 3 a.m. after the couple went missing to 1:30 the next day, which would be Sunday afternoon, there are 3 calls that were placed from that phone to itself, essentially, which would mean someone dialing voicemail for that phone.
So if somebody has that phone and they're dialing those digits, then there is a connection for 85 seconds at that time?
I don't get it. I don't get your question.
Well,
Well, I mean, and plus I don't...
I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you, but let
Okay,
me try again.
Go ahead, sir.
This shows us that 660-3783 dialed 660-3783 at January 7th at 3 a.m., right?
Yes.
Does it show that?
Yep.
Okay. No further questions, Judge.
And one thing US Cellular could not say was whether the voicemail was actually accessed. But the bottom line is that with that bit of cell phone testimony, the defense was able to at least pluck a few strings of reasonable doubt. A TBI forensic scientist identified a stain on Shannon's camisole as a bleach substance. This would support co-defendant Vanessa Coleman's statement to authorities that she saw these male suspects, including Davidson, pouring some sort of cleaning liquid down Shannon's throat in an effort to destroy DNA evidence from the rape. However, the prosecution is not being allowed to enter Vanessa Coleman's statement at trial, so the state still has a little bit of work to do to try to convince jurors that how that bleach got on that camisole. We also had testimony from an ATF agent, Bernie Waggoner, and he mainly discussed the capture in Kentucky of Davidson's co-defendants and the discovery of a gun that has since been linked to suspect Latalvis Cobbins that was stashed in a home in Kentucky.
We searched the house, recovered several pieces of evidence, one of which was her computer that she told us that Cobbins and Thomas had been looking on the internet at Knoxville news stations. There was a room, I guess it was a utility room originally. There was an old washer and dryer in it. There was a single bed, and on the bed at the headboard was a reddish purse. In the purse were identification or documents belonging to both the female victim in this case and Vanessa Coleman. There was a white shoebox under the bed that was empty except for the white hair bow. On our way back, driving from Louisville to Knoxville, we received a call from the Kentucky State Police, Trooper Moses, and he reported that Natasha Hayes reported to him that she had found a gun, a firearm, a handgun in her house. He had responded to her residence on Shuck Avenue, and in the box that I described earlier, she told him that she had found a .22 caliber revolver, which she turned over to Trooper Moses.
Ms. Allen testified that Ms. Coleman came in to the house and had a kind of a hooded sweatshirt on.
Yes, sir.
That? And she had one hand in one pocket of that. Is that
Yes,
right?
sir.
And she greeted Ms. Hayes and Ms. Allen, and they both went to another part of the house or outside, and Ms. Coleman went into the bedroom that you found the gun in, correct?
That's what they reported to us. They also identified Ms. Coleman's sister as being present, and Vanessa Coleman's mother was in a vehicle out on the street.
Correct. But Ms. Hayes told you that Ms. Coleman went into the bedroom, right?
Yes.
And was in there for 3 or 4 minutes?
I believe she said 5.
5? And when she came out, according to Ms. Hayes and Ms. Allen, when she came out, both her hands were visible. Is that right? Do you remember that?
I would have to look at my report about that, sir.